Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. In this episode, I want to talk about an app called Quixel Mixer. So Quixel Mixer is actually a free app at the moment, and it provides you uh, a lot of materials that you can quickly mix together. Most of the materials are PBR based, but it can also generate like something that's kind of stylized. So I think it's really powerful. It's almost like Armor Paint and actually a little bit like BPainter in Blender. But yeah, so this is the stylized example. Um, it has a very interesting workflow, I think. So I want to give a bit of uh, preview of this app. I've been playing around with Suzanne, as you can see the painting. What's interesting about Quixel Mixer, and from what I just quickly go through documentations and video tutorial out there on Quixel Mixer. It is actually using things like color ID. So think of it like you can only apply a single material with multiple UV maybe, but a single material and the UV that's actually just laid out as a single UV or maybe multiple UV using UDIM. But anyway, like Quixel Mixer is actually using color ID. So if I quickly show you here with Suzanne head example here, I have a color ID working underneath. So you can see here, if I select the color ID, I can quickly change the material assignment depending on the material. So it's very material based. And to do so, from Blender, for example, if I want to paint with material using Quixel Mixer, I need to bake it out first. So Suzanne head is made up, it's a single mesh joined together, and the UV is, they are not overlapping. They are nice and clean. But here, I assign a 3 different material to Suzanne. Each one represents something that's gonna be understood by Quixel Mixer. So hopefully this works. And first of all, I need to bake this into a texture, right? I already done so, but basically from here with 3 different materials, each material already have this texture I call color ID, and I simply need to bake it. So if it's using cycles, you just bake color diffuse and yeah, just bake it out. It's gonna take a while, but I'm gonna try to, while it's doing it, I will try a new mix. I will load the Suzanne head as FBX, or yeah, I think it's FBX will work. Doesn't matter, or OBJ. So this one's still baking. So this is Quixel Mixer. By default, it has this single objects, which is just a plane, model plane, but you can set up custom mesh. Oh, it should be pretty slow on my computer. I have monkey head here open. So first time I'm using Quixel Mixer and using multiple material, it's actually complained that it doesn't like to have multiple materials somehow, but it likes to have a color ID. So this is Suzanne, and holding options, I play around with the navigations, and let's see. So we have base layer. So this is actually quite interesting. Base layer is important. This is how the geometry or the 3D assets comes into Quixel Mixer. You can bring in your own presets of this guy. Like at the moment it doesn't have material ID, but I'm gonna give it material ID now. So this is actually the one that I baked earlier. So we have bright green, bright blue, bright red, which is exactly this is okay. And we're gonna bring it back later. But Suzanne only have eventually only have a single material with all the bake PBR as a single PBR, which is really cool actually. So yeah, cool. We have material ID. We can use this. So the interface is very similar to Armor Paint at a glance. The way we work with it, it's actually really quite interesting, and this is something that I'm still learning over time, so I only know the basic for now. We are adding things like paint layer, surface layer. If it's a paint layer, if you start painting, you will see very quickly that it's doing a little bit of displacement or a bump, kind of. There is no color because I think by default it's probably white color. You need to change the color albedo, so it's yeah, you just pick a color and start painting. So that's the paint layer, but it looks like painting exactly, and you can easily delete it if you like. So that's really cool. And what's even cooler is this surface layer. When you create a surface layer, it brings in this material library. This comes by default. And let's try something like this. Oh, the paper. Where's it? This one, wrinkled paper. To bring that in, and right away it's gonna cover up everything. And you don't even need to paint, right? But you can assign the color ID, not color tag, but the color ID. Let's see. Add material ID and which one you want to colorize. So this is Susan head without the eyes. I can assign it to specific eye color. So it's almost like masking based on the color. Okay, so that's first. And you can add another layer. Let's see. Something that's completely different from the paper. Maybe this soil mud. For soil mud, yeah, so it looks really different from the paper. If I'm not wrong, we can actually kind of blend this easily using a lot of things, like from below or from above. So this is, and you can control the threshold. So from what I've observed, with Quixel Mixer, you can have some sort of displacement that happens in real time. But on top of that, you can also have some kind of mask task, and this masking is actually procedural. So you can add noise to the mask very quickly, and this will influence whatever texture we have here. And so it's basically masking. So two things just happens, right? The masking happens, and also this PBR material itself have this blending from below or from above. And there's like a certain threshold as well. So there's a lot of things happening already, and it's affecting all surface material of Suzanne in this case, because I didn't assign the color ID for the soil mud. Let's actually add another one that's also different. This material, okay, maybe this. So rusted metal is gonna cover everything. We can use from below. So it's kind of blending a little bit from below. Again, there's a threshold, and you can see you can really affect the whole thing like that. or you can actually create a mask and paint it. Yeah, so without any issue, I mean, with very little effort, you can get this really super high realistic result. I mean, this is just from the Quixel quick library of a smart material, I think they call it. We have things like decals and liquid and noise. I haven't used all those yet, but let's add more materials like this. So rock cliff, it covers, again, it's cover up everything, but add an ID mask and you can easily assign it to the Susan eyes. Do another one. Marble. ID mask. So let's save this very quickly, just in case it crashes. Test 005, save. And this material is not 100%. Yeah, I think this material is actually kind of procedural. Let's try. So let's try this material that's assigned only on the eyes and use from above or from below, and mix it slightly. Maybe from above. Oh, in this case, maybe there's nothing from above or from below, so you can, however, always play with opacity. Right, okay. So let's say we are actually done with it. We want to export it out. There's a quick export here, or you can check this export and then have a look at what you want to export, like specularity, roughness, or even like metalness, and then quick export or export from here. So it's gonna export everything, but it's gonna export it as a single texture map, PBR map. So it's actually very clean and very fast. So Quixel export, test 5. The material looks something like this. Normal, metalness, diffuse. So everything's combined as a single texture. So that's very handy. So with Suzanne, let's get rid of all this material. Just add a new material. This is the Quixel. It's gonna be for Quixel texture. I will be using the Node Wrangler. So with Node Wrangler, there's a shortcut to bring in PBR, which is Control-Shift-T, add principal texture setup. So it's gonna automate the process. Control-Shift-T, Quixel, just load all of them. So there's probably something that's, yeah, I think it seems to be working. Cool. Okay. So let's observe this very quickly. I'm here, viewport shading. I can go to EV. Oh, this is actually cycles. Switch to EV. Add some light. Let's use this. Okay. Maybe turn on scene light and scene world. Okay, let's observe it like this for now. So the marble, rock, and this rusted metal mix together quite nicely. Let's compare it. Option, rotate. So it's not bad. It's actually working really well. And from here, I can actually export it out for AR. So Quixel Mixer, like I said, currently this is actually free, right? So it's quite powerful. It's actually really powerful workflow, and people who work with Quixel Mixer probably work for game industry or film industry, and they have their own pipeline with other toolset like Marmoset, Toolbag, or things like that. I don't know, but this is supposedly works really well with Unreal Engine, and Epic Games also has a Quixel library of assets that I don't have access into. But this Quixel Mixer is really quite powerful, and Blender can maybe incorporate some of the ideas, especially with layering of materials, things like that. Blender can do it using things like BPainter. So BPainter and masking and maybe some color ID clever masking can work in a way that's similar to this. But yeah, the simplicity of Quixel Mixer is incredible, I think. So you can really just quickly change things very fast. So Decal and Atlas. So this one I don't have any Atlas library, but they have all these assets. That's why sometimes I think assets library, like very clean and good management of assets, is really powerful. But if you don't have access to all that, you build your own and be creative with it. Maybe uh, you have your own tools, right? Like Blender, you can make it work like this in a way or another. They kind of work together as well. So at the moment, this is really beneficial if you are doing like material job like this, like for environment maybe. Yeah, I think Quixel Mixer is amazing. I love it. So yeah, hopefully you find this useful, the whole workflow. So like I said, this is from here. If you want to export it out as AR, export it as GLB, save, because GLB will understand this principle, shader, etc. So I'm gonna close Quixel Mixer because my computer become really slow. Save, and especially with 3D stuff, MacBook can be a bit slow. You need to have Mac Pro with a maybe powerful GPU. So I will try to reopen the GLB from this guy. So like I said, this is nice. Single material, but somehow you have this something that looks really complex. PBR. It has actually displacement as well that I don't show here. It actually show up on Quixel Mixer. So this is Reality Composer. I'm gonna drag and drop GLB, drop it here. So Quixel Mixer and Blender, they work together. I think really powerful workflow. And now this is just a conversion for augmented reality, AR stuff. Loading. Okay. Okay, because my Suzanne is low res, I have to, when I export it, I should have turned on modifier. Geometry, apply modifier, export. It's supposed to be like that. This will update in a bit, but you can see the result. It's quite nice. All the materials comes in. Oh, missing occlusion, interesting. Okay, forgot the occlusions. Now it's reloading because I updated the GLB. Cool. Now all I need to do is just export as AR. It doesn't have displacement yet because it's the limitation of Apple USDZ, but it's still quite nice. Material occlusions, just add the occlusions and maybe clear code if you want. Right, so yeah, that's the whole process from something that you start with Blender and you give a color ID and you export it into Quixel Mixer, bring it to Blender to check it out, maybe make some changes, and then you export it out as GLB for USDZ conversion. All right, so yeah, hopefully you find this useful. Let me know if you have any question or suggestion. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.